Hello, hello, hello. Hope everybody is having a good week so far. We're gonna get rocking and rolling here. Got a little bit of a show planned here for us today. We're gonna be taking a look at some comics that I've recently picked up. As well, I've got some records that I'm gonna be showing off that I picked up recently. We're gonna do a in-year review. So basically everything that I've been doing this past 12 months since I've started up the channel. I believe today is exactly on the mark the 1-year anniversary. It's definitely super crazy that it's happened this fast, and it doesn't feel like it's been a year. I've been super busy since the very start, making comics, content, so on and so forth, and just doing everything. So this year was like a lightning blast going by. It was so fast. That's how it goes though. So yeah, we're gonna kind of talk about everything that I've gotten into over the past year. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. And yeah, we're just gonna talk about, like I said, got a little haul to show off and a couple other things, and let's go ahead and send it and see what we get into here. All right, first things first, as always, sam/mcclurg.com. Head into the store, and you'll be able to pick up stuff from me. And then as well, if you click on this, it just sends you straight over to the Kickstarter. So it's at $880 currently, so I have $120 to go. So not a whole lot. We still have 16 days to go. I am very confident that this is going to end up hitting the finish line. For those of you that are curious, I've had this book done for like the past 6 weeks or so, I want to say. A lot of the time after I got the book done was put into getting this prepped, getting the variant covers, getting pinups, so on and so forth, which, a little disclosure for you guys, this bad boy, I have it labeled as a 45 pager, I believe. I am adding more pages to this as we speak. So, I was able to get in more scripts that I had, scanned in to put in here. And then as well, I have more pinups that people had reached out to me after the Kickstarter had gone live and said, hey, like, this book looks awesome, like how to kind of get involved. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at. I think total it's going to be like 50 to 52 pages is kind of where it's going to end up being. But yeah, I'm definitely adding more pages to the book. This is going to be a big fat boy. Super excited to see, the final product, and waiting just for the pinup so I can slap them into the book and get this thing finished up and completely designed. So pretty exciting. I did finish up my pages last night for my anthology book. We are doing an underground theme this go around, so it's going to be a bunch of nonsense, underground goodness type of stuff. So that's going to be pretty exciting. I can't wait to show you guys what I've been working on. I've sent it to a handful of people what I have out there, and it's the story that I'm working on is nuts. It's just batshit. I can't wait for people to see it. Definitely very much a Johnny Ryan sort of take on comics. All right, so let's take a look at this here for a second. So let me get this camera on here. You guys can see me. All right, so yeah, I just wanted to talk about the year in review here, just for the last 12 months that I've been making content, making comics, so on and so forth. So the very first video I ever did was about Dr. Seuss, and I just flipped through a bunch of Dr. Seuss stuff that was in my collection, and then as well, you can see here I did I pulled out things that were also inspired by Dr. Seuss out of my collection. So there was like an issue of Ice Cream Man that had a bunch of Dr. Seuss references in it. We flipped through that, Three Naked Ham, Cat in a Hat, so on and so forth. And then I did my Rude Dude super special. So I basically went through Steve's entire career, from basically when he first started Nexus all the way up until where he was then at the time. I think the 2023 sketchbook was the newest one, so that's what we had ended up looking at during that video. It did all right. But as you can see, though, it's like once we start getting into some of these other videos, the view counts are kind of all over the place. But if you guys have been living under a rock, I work for Steve Rude now, so I am a part of his content creation team, digital assistant, so on and so forth. So whatever basically they need me to work on, I do it. So I've been running the YouTube channel for the past 2 weeks now. So if you guys have noticed, if you guys are subscribed to Steve Rude on YouTube, you've noticed like thumbnails designs have been changed, video schedule uploads have been changed, shorts have been edited differently. It's because they're trying to get more young guns kind of under the Rude Dude wing and kind of help get this promotion, so on and so forth. And I'm the one that's doing it. So kind of wild. Like I said, obviously Steve Rude, he's my all-time favorite. I think a lot of people know that. And just having the opportunity to be able to work with him and learn from the guy, it's absolutely amazing, and I do not take it for granted. It's never something that I foreseed to happen. He posted up a thing saying like, hey, we're looking to hire a bunch of people. So I applied for it and I got the gig. It's pretty much that simple. So shout out to Steve and Janelle, his wife. Love you both. And we're actually going to be taking a look at some Steve Rude stuff I have in my haul. I picked it up from him, from his Kickstarter a couple weeks ago, and I showed off the How to Draw book, but I totally forgot to bring the Art of Steve Rude book, which are his sketchbooks. So we're going to be taking a look at that here in a little bit. But yeah, it's nuts though, just like how far, I've come this year. So last year in like September, October-ish time frame, I want to say, I emailed West Coast Dave. It was before I even, we started to talk since then and so on and so forth, but I just kind of said, hey, I was looking at Comic Haul videos, and that's how I discovered Dave actually, and then saw that, oh, he has the kayfabe relation, so on and so forth. So then that just kind of helped me, start watching the rest of his content, reaching out to him, helping him out, so on and so forth, doing all that kind of stuff. And I reached out to him and said, hey, like, you were kind of an influence, because originally my whole thing for the channel was that I was going to do like hunts, hauls, that sorts of thing. And then obviously when I morphed more into doing the cartoonist side of things, the channel is kind of like a conglomerate of just everything that I like. So collecting, digging, drawing, talking about artists, it's just kind of my own thing now at this point. But Dave was the main reason why I started to do this to begin with. And he knows that, and he emailed me back and said, hey, that's awesome, keep it up, so on and so forth. And here we are a year later, and I was just telling him in his chat the other day, I'm like, hey man, it's like, it's already been a year since that's happened. And he's like, also like, holy shit, like, that's nuts, it's already been a year. But yeah, my best performing video was this Todd video, which makes sense, it's Todd, and I put a shitload of effort into this. So if you guys haven't watched this video, I highly recommend to do it. It's very similar to the Steve Rude video that I put out, but it's way more in depth. As you can see, it's like double the length. And I basically go through that Devils of the Details book that Todd did, where kind of like a retrospective of his career. And I stop in certain sections and I'll pull out the books that he's talking about, show them off, flip through them, and I do like a bunch of toy reviews. So I have in my living room, I have like a 6-tier bookshelf, and from left to right, front to back, every shelf is just filled with Todd toys, mainly Spawn stuff. And I show off like my favorite Spawn toys, give off reviews in there, so on and so forth. So if you guys haven't checked that out, as you can see, I tried to get super clickbaity with my thumbnail there. But yeah, I just recommend to check that out, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. I think go through my favorite like Todd covers, my favorite Spawn covers, bunch of stuff. And then I started getting into more manga stuff. So obviously I discovered Japan Book Hunter, reached out to Sean, I started emailing back and forth with Sean a little bit, and then decided to, hey, I'm gonna start getting more and more into Japanese comics. I had very boilerplate knowledge of Japanese comics, Dragon Ball, whatever else, just like all the mainstream stuff, right? Naruto and whatever. Now I have like Golgo 13, Kamen Rider, just like 2 or 3 shelves just full of manga, and I love it. And that definitely, like, if you guys have seen my pages and seen my art, like, you'll see that I use a bunch of screen tones, and just a lot of my texture and stuff like that is very much inspired by Japanese comics. And this one right here, I'd probably recommend to watch if you're going to go back and watch any of this stuff. I think that it's a good haul, and then plus there's a lot of things in there that are pretty unlikely for you to see in other places. There's like, I have Silver Surfer manga from when it had originally released in the 70s, black and white Silver Surfer, so it's not even colored. That's in there, that's super sick. There's like a children's magazine that I flipped through, it has a bunch of like Godzilla, weird like jigsaw puzzles and stuff like that in there. It's super cool. And that was at a time where I was fooling around with drawing all of my thumbnails, so you can see like that, this art in this thumbnail right here, I drew all of that by hand and pasted my picture in the corner of it, and this art is actually for sale on my Kickstarter currently. I think it's like $40 I have it labeled as. So if anybody wants to grab that there, that is kind of like a slime monster with lasers coming out of his eyes over Mount Fuji. So pretty fun. And then I got into doing more slime reviews, and this did toy reviews, and this did pretty good. Everybody likes slime. I'm a huge Master of the Universe fan. I have a whole diorama set up in my living room actually of it's like Snake Mountain and all of the vehicles. And I have another play set out there. It's not Slime Pit, and something else is out there too. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but I have a couple of the play sets. So huge Motu guy. That video was a lot of fun to do. One of the things that, yeah, this right here, so this is at Freak Toys, and Freak Toys is a toy store in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, which is like 2 hours away from here, from where I live. And that's like the best shop I think in Wisconsin, and they're not even a comic shop, they're more of a toy shop, but they just happen to sell comics. They probably have 50 to 60 long boxes, and they are not labeled, they are not alphabetized in any way. It's literally just random. So it's one of those places you have to go knowing like you're going to be there for a while, like digging, and it can be quite a bit, because a lot of their long boxes are like down on the floor, so it's a lot of you being on the knees kind of digging through there. But that shop is massive, and if you guys are into toys, especially wrestling, they do wrestling shows there, and they'll shut down the entire city block, and they'll have wrestling matches like out there, and they do it every year. It's called like Rock and Wrestling is what they call it. And like Hornswoggle, Tommy Dreamer, and Danhausen did a triple threat match there back in July, and that was the last one that they did. I didn't have a chance to go to it. But yeah, it's a sick shop. Like again, it's called Freak Toys, and they have an online store. So if you guys ever want to check them out, definitely recommend to go over to the website and see what they have available, because every day they're posting stuff up there, including comics, and a lot of the stuff that I pick up that's like more on the rarer side, or like you never see, they get that kind of stuff. So I always look at their site literally every day to see what they do acquire. Yeah, and then I kind of went through when I was in SVS, so I was studying under Jake Parker and Sean Crystal, and somebody had reached out to me because I was given a lot of, just spitting knowledge and things like that that weren't in the class but were helping people. A bunch of people had reached out to me and kind of asked like, hey, is there any way you can make like a video or like a series or whatever to kind of spread your knowledge a little bit, and for like a place for us to continuously come back to watch. And then so during SVS, all of the other students in class were calling me Professor McClurg because, like I said, I was just spitting knowledge. That just kind of became my nickname in class. But yeah, so I made these art help videos, and they did pretty well. And I understand, like, so I did like a deleter, screen tone tutorial. I did 2 of those. And these art help things, I realized that they're not going to get a lot of views, especially for getting the clicks on them and so on and so forth for like for the more casual audience. But for the people that are seeking this kind of stuff out, they're gonna see it and be like, oh shit, hell yeah. Because it's like, for me, when I was trying to find walkthroughs on screen tone and so on and so forth, it's like the only one that was out there were like the 2 that the Kayfabe guys had done, but they're 2-hour-long videos getting more into the minutia of things. And I was trying to frame my videos information that they weren't giving, and then as well more of information on where to find screen tones, how to properly apply screen tones in different situations and all that kind of thing. So if you're into comics, making comics, I would recommend to go back and check those out. I went through and dug through my local comic shop, so Powerhouse Comics. The owner is Zach, really good friend of mine. They sell all of my comics there. I just walk in, throw them on the shelf, and walk out. This is kind of the relationship that we're at now. They've been around since the 80s, so it's one of those shops, and it has not been renovated at all. So when you go in there and pop into this place, it's like walking into a time capsule. It's, you know, wood paneling on the walls, sorts of thing, and it just smells musty in there, just like a good old comic shop. So if you guys are in the you know, Fox Valley area, definitely recommend to check out Powerhouse Comics. They don't get like Fantagraphics books, Undergrounds, and things like that, like just to have up on the shelf in terms of you know, wall books. But it's my local comic shop. You gotta love it, right, for what it is. And like I said, it's one of those rare comic shops that have been around for a very long time. So when you go in there, like, it feels like this place has been around for, you know, 40 to 50 years. Give me a moment. Go on. My cat was scratching at the door. Give me a second here. I am gonna check the chat out. Hey, how we doing, Grant? The other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit, I don't know why it does that. Give me a second. It like always freezes up the camera when I switch it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about here real quick, once this loads up here, is Ace. So, if you guys are Kiss fans out there, if you've been living under a rock, obviously Ace had passed away a couple of days ago. It fucked me up pretty good, so to kind of give into, and I decided, it was last Thursday, and I decided not to stream that day because of this, and, you know, just made a post about it. Pretty much ever since I came out of the womb, I was a Kiss fan, have been a Kiss fan. It's just one of those things. I don't know. I had seen it somewhere and then basically became attached to it at a very, very young age. Like before I was even in like elementary school, I want to say, like I was obsessed with them. And this was at the height of their powers. They were on the reunion tour at the time, so Kiss was massive again. And that's kind of when I got into them when I was a kid. So I've seen them 3 times with various lineups, and I've seen Ace countless times with his solo band. The first time I saw him was, oh man, like 2016-ish, I want to say. And then every year subsequent to that, anytime he's coming in the area, I've even traveled down to Chicago. That's where this photo was at. I was in music school at the time and was able to go out there and meet him and everything like that. Had a VIP pass and got to, you know, the whatever 2 minutes I had with him, and that was awesome. He was a super cool dude, and, you know, he's a big reasoning as to, well, Kiss and especially Ace is a big reasoning as to why you know, I pursued a music career at the time, and then, you know, why I picked up a guitar and played a guitar. I had one of Ace's signature Gibsons a couple years ago. I ended up having to sell it when I was going through my divorce at the time and had to, you know, pay bills, so on and so forth. So I ended up having to sell that guitar off, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, Ace, what more can you say? And especially they have a, you know, that comic book collection or connection of putting their blood in the comics on those original Marvel Treasury editions, and continuously just making Kiss book comics from there on. So there definitely is a comic connection there. So, hey, love you, Ace. What can you do? All right. So let's go ahead and get into this. Take a drink here. I got some fun stuff to show off here. I'm going to get my chat pulled up, so I have that in front of me now so I can see everybody chatting away. Let's show this stuff off first. All right, so my buddy Dan over at Stand Up Records. I met Dan through West Coast Dave, of course, through his chats and doing the live channels and everything like that. So I befriended Dan. We chat, we text each other literally every day, and I decided to put an order in with him. I was gonna order these, or I was gonna buy these records that I'm about to show off here from him when I had met him at Eddie Pecan, because he was also tabling there. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna let you keep this stuff, so I'm not taking away from your stock, because the reasoning why I bought some of this stuff you'll see here in a second. I was like, I don't want to take away from, you know, what this is, so I'll just buy it from you down the road. Here we are, you know, a couple weeks later, about a month later after Eddie Pecan. So these are like little drink mixers type of things, you know, just like throw-ins that he gave to me that look like a record needle. Pretty cool. But yeah, Dan owns it's called Stand Up Records. It's exactly what it is. They do stand-up records, you know, stand-up comedy. He's got David Cross and the hell is Patton Oswalt and a couple other people that are pretty well known on his label. So if you guys are into stand-up comedy, that's definitely something to check out. Just a bunch of goodies he kind of threw in there for me. Some of these coins, I showed these off during Eddie Pecan. Every time somebody buys something from him, you get one of these basically, and I have like 6 of these now because he gave me a handful of these in Pittsburgh. Just cool little things for club that he had gone to. I'm a big fan of matchbooks, so I'll take it. Temporary tattoos, some stickers. That's Dan right there, my boy. And then the chick clips. So these are basically, I'm sure you guys have seen them before, but you'll be in a grocery store, gas station, or whatever, and you'll always find like these dumbass, like, you know, go to church and stop being a sinner and love God, like those sorts of pamphlets that you see just like laying around, that people just like propaganda people just leave laying around in places. This is basically that, but for comic books and stand-up comedy. Very funny. Yes, fuck this fucking shit, exactly, to my point. But yeah, this is good stuff. So he always gives these away for free, and then as well, wherever Dan goes, he's going to a comic shop, he drops off a shitload of these, so you might even have seen these out in the wild. But life's a joke, pretty funny. Little Fiend Club button. I actually bought this as a sticker, and I have it on the back of my laptop, but it's Dan, kind of looking like the Misfits logo. He had sent me Valley Meadows comedy duo here, a CD, so appreciate that. I do have a CD player, so I have to listen. I haven't had a chance to listen to this, but the 2 records I've had a chance to spin. And then, of course, he gave me a little handwritten letter. Love you, Dan. And then a flexi disc. So I'm actually a big fan of these, and you'll see these in comic books from time to time. And like back in the day, you'd see them in like children's books, to where people were, you know, they would put them in there and like it would read to the kid when they would, rather than reading it. So big fan of a flexi disc, and this is just something that he threw into my order, so big shout out to that. I'm actually pretty stoked on this because, like I said, like I love flexi discs. Got a soft spot for them. All right, let's show off the main event here from my haul from Dan. So here's the reasoning why I wanted to buy this, or put it in order with him, and the reasoning why I held off onto it when I was at Eddie Pecan. So this is a obviously done by Ed Piskor, if you couldn't tell already. He had done this cover for Dan. Dan commissioned him to do it, and originally it was only a CD, and the resolution and technology had come up far enough to where they were able to upscale it, and it looked perfectly fine, and they were able to press it to vinyl. So it's Danny LaBelle, and then on the back here there's a Raymond Pattabone kind of homage art. It's a slip cover as well, so there's art on the back side of this, but I want to display my Eddie P, and I'm honestly probably gonna end up framing this, because, you know, Ed's my all-time, he's my guy, so why the hell not? But if you are in the fan of heart for comedy and you can't handle like jokes that aren't PC at all, this is not your your record. Because I listened to this last night, and some of this stuff, even I don't get offended by anything, even stuff that's in this, I was kind of like, eee. So just be aware of that, which makes total sense that Ed is a part of it. And then the other thing I wanted to show off, this caught my eye right away. Obviously, it's mimicking Too Fast for Love for Motley Crue, which is probably my favorite Crue album, I would say, personally. It's an absolute banger. But this is Awesome Snakes. Album's called Venom, and it is a duo, a drummer and bass player. And basically, it is the guitar itself, just the bass guitar, it has so much distortion and stuff on it. It just sounds like a guitar at that point. But this is like a hardcore, punkish, new wave album is how I would categorize this. It's honestly pretty sick. If you're into like the yeah yeahs, man, like Girl School, X-Ray Specs, like that kind of feel of like punk music, like this is right up your alley. I listened to this thing twice yesterday. That's how much I liked it. So I definitely would recommend to pick this thing up if you're into that kind of music. And obviously he does stand-up records, but he does have musicians on his label as well. And from everything that I've listened to that's on his label, this is the grab, I think. So be sure to pick this up. It's honestly like it surprised me because they're using a lot of like hip hop influences here as well, like using samples and that sort of thing. So honestly, it's a banger. All right, let's check out some comics here. So my girlfriend had gone to Seattle recently for a work trip, and she brought me back a comic. She went to a couple of bookstores that had comics in them, and she sent me a picture of this bookstore's like comic section, and it's literally nothing but indies and undergrounds. And I'm like, dude, like where is that at around here? Like, you just don't see that. And that was one of the things that blew my mind in Pittsburgh, is just like how readily available like alternative and underground comics are. Like, Pittsburgh is the best city in the country for comics, bar none. Like, it's not even close. And I've been everywhere: Chicago, San Francisco, LA, you know, Columbus, all over the place. Like, every city you can think of, and Pittsburgh doesn't even come close to being touched for being the best comic city. So if you haven't been to Pittsburgh yet and you're into comics, do yourself a favor and take a trip to Pittsburgh and just spend a week just going through all the comic shops there, because there's probably more comic shops in Pittsburgh than there are Starbucks, and like that's not even a joke. So highly recommend to go to Pittsburgh. But anyway, she picked this up for me, and she was like, I saw this and I had to buy it for you because this looks like some weird shit you'd be into. And you know what? She wasn't wrong. So she knows me very well. But this was basically, I flipped through this already, and it's just a bunch of memes. Like, obviously this is from Spaceballs. But he's basically just drawing a bunch of memes in his like underground kind of aesthetic. And that's all this book is. And obviously I love it. The cartooning is pretty good. It's definitely very, you know, R. crummy. It has that scratchy sort of look to it. But yeah, he's basically just going through a bunch of old retired memes from back in the day and just putting funny captions on them. That's pretty much the gist of this book. Yeah, Nigel Thornberry. Yeah, he's a pretty good cartoonist. Basically, he had wrote in here, you know, kind of talking about, you know, hey, like I stopped cartooning for a while, and then I finally decided to actually practice and start to get a little better at it. And here's another book. Oh wow, Frizzle Fry, Primus. Didn't even see that when I flipped through this the first time. But yeah, it's pretty good shit though. Maru is the name, and there's the Instagram if you guys want to go track this guy down. Let this focus into the camera so you can find him. There we go. So if you guys wanted to scan that, there's that. But yeah, I honestly might end up reaching out to this dude and track him down to see if he ever wants to do anything for the anthology, because like this is just prime example of somebody I'd want in one of my anthologies. Just weird, obscuro. The anatomy is just wonky as hell. Like, this is the kind of shit that I love, and it's like, give me more of this. You know what I mean? That's something that Stand Up Dan and I had kind of talked about, because that Awesome Snakes cover, it's just like super wonky drawing. But you know, if you love comics enough, it kind of like that kind of like weird, obscure shit, it's like you love it. Let's look at some books. So of course we got, I bought some Batman Adventures. They were $5 a piece in a $5 round through Dave's one of his live streams. I honestly might already have this book. I think that I do. If I do, I'll just end up selling it as a double, or giving it away to somebody. My buddy John, I gave him, when I came back from Pittsburgh, I accidentally bought doubles of stuff, and because I don't keep track of variant covers in my book, but when I was in Pittsburgh, I had access to a bunch of, you know, Red Room variants, Hip Hop Family Tree variants, and stuff like that typically you wouldn't see out in the wild. So I was able to acquire a bunch of that, and when I came home, went through my books, and I'm like, oh, I already had this variant. Ended up giving it to like a fat stack of comics, probably like 10 comics or so, to my buddy John. He started reading Red Room. I gave him Red Room and Hard Boiled, a couple other books. So he had said that Red Room was a badass comic, and hell yeah, of course it is. So yeah, if this ends up being a double, I'll probably end up just throwing it in a pile and giving it off to him. I was selling them, but I think that you know, spreading the love of comics is more my speed, and getting more people aware of these kind of comics. So I'll give it to somebody who actually read it and appreciate it, rather than just trying to spin it for a profit. Especially like these books are like, what's the comic shop going to give me $1 for it? You know what I mean? So it's like, I'd rather just give it to somebody who will read it and appreciate it. But of course, Batman Adventures is just a play on Batman the Animated Series. I love these comics. I love comics that are inspired by cartoons and kind of have their own flair still to them. Obviously, you guys know that I do the Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy stuff, which probably next week we're due for another one for sure. So we're gonna get into probably Ren and Stimpy, the Beavis and Butthead stuff. I have like maybe one more episode we could do. I'm just running out of issues, because like those later issues are super hard to find, and I'm not about to buy like a lot to get those later issues, and then have to worry about trying to get rid of the other issues that I already own. And just having a bunch of doubles laying around. Like, if I could find those later issues by themselves, like, I'll snag them up as fast as possible. But then they're usually a little overpriced too if they're by themselves, so it's kind of hard to say. But yeah, next week I'll probably end up digging out my Ren and Stimpy comics, and we'll do another Marvel Did Ren and Stimpy comics episode and get that out and posted for you guys. Those do pretty well. Like, every time I do one of those stream/videos, they get a couple hundred views on them, so why the hell not? Yeah, some Batman adventure goodness. Oh wow, cliffhanger. I actually just listened to Stallone interview that he did with like Variety Fair or something like that recently. Kind of talks about his career. And I don't think he mentioned cliffhanger. He talked about Cobra and Rambo, Rocky. That was about it. Expendables, which Expendables is a dog shit movie. I'm sorry, but you know, I get why they did it. It makes a lot of sense on why they did it and why it was so popular, but then they made 2 more of those. Just why? Like, should have just been a one and done thing, but I get it. They made a shitload of money, so might as well keep making shitloads of more money, right? Speaking of which, shout out to Kelly Jones. He was just on West Coast Dave's channel talking about that Dracula book that him and Matt Wagner are doing together. I love Kelly Jones, a shitload actually. He's one of my Favorite guys, not just because like he just seems like a good dude, you know what I mean? Like I would want to sit and shoot the shit with Kelly Jones. Like he's kind of like that kind of guy. Um, but I discovered him through the Dead Man miniseries that he had done with Mike Barron. Of course, Mike Barron Nexus. So that's how I ended up finding out who who he was. So shout out to Kelly Jones. Yeah, more just Batman adventure nonsense. You know, don't need to flip through these a bunch. You see it and you get it. My thing is that I look at these comics for like composition and like line work, I guess. Just the because in an animated series, a lot of this stuff kind of gets lost in the sauce because it's moving. So when you actually see like these big, you know, Bruce Timm brush strokes and things like that, it's just good cartooning. And if you want to get good with the brush, I think this is like the perfect kind of starting thing, because there isn't a lot of complex stuff that's really going on in these comics in terms of like the drawing ability. A lot of flat and solid blacks, but I think actual figure drawing and kind of getting better with your line weight, this is a good thing to practice with, just kind of copying some of these drawings. But yeah, Batman Adventures, good shit. Something else I picked up from West Coast Dave. Underground Special, Generation X. Kind of crazy that Marvel, of all companies, put this thing out, and they're like, oh, we're just going to let Jim Mahfood draw a Generation X comic. Get a drink here. And I've wanted this comic for a very long time. I've never seen it out in the wild, and finally Dave had one to sell, and I snatched it up as fast as humanly possible. And like looking on the outside of this, like you would have no idea this was even a Jim Mahfood comic if you haven't seen like his earlier work. This is what it kind of looks like the Clerks comics, so on and so forth. It's very Johnny Vasquez, Invader Zimmy, like that was the popular art aesthetic kind of at the time. That's how he was drawing. It's like if you saw this out in the wild compared to what his art aesthetic looks now, it's very Sienkiewicz, Jamie Hewlett, you know, I'd say probably the big two that you kind of put that into a blender, you get Jim Mahfood. So when you look at this stuff, you're just like, I would never guess in a million years that this was, you know, a Jim comic. But yeah, he had the opportunity to work on Generation X and kind of do his thing on it. I mean, Marvel needs to do more things like this, to be honest with you, and I kind of wish that they would. Just like give us one-shots of just weird comics of your properties and just let people do what they want with them. And it would sell. Like, I just don't understand. Like, you already have Jim doing covers for you. Just give him a whole book, right? At this point, just let him run with it. That's kind of where I'm at with everything. But yeah, it's good stuff. I think in terms of the lettering and everything like that, it's way better in this book. Like, I was looking through his New York Inkstains book, and then as well, like, his Clerks book, and just the lettering in those are fucking... It's like a nightmare to look at, because there's so much on the page. But yeah, super excited to finally be able to get this one and add it to my collection. I have yet to go through and read this one, read this book. I haven't had a chance yet. But everything else that we looked at so far, I've already read, and this is like the one that I still have to get to. Alright, so Inside Comics #1. This is kind of a precursor to like Comics Journal, that sort of thing. You know, it's just an interview book, fanzine, however you want to look at it. There's actually some pretty good stuff in here. So they talk about people lifting art from each other when it's pretty obvious, like, oh, so-and-so, like, ripped this off from here. And it's just kind of a interview about that, about how people are ripping off characters, ripping off art from each other, and it being just obvious and as plain as day, and there just being no accountability for it. Oh, wow, look at this. Old picture of James Warren. And a picture of a young ass Steranko. Look at that. Like, this dude is what? He's probably in his 80s now, if not his like late 70s. I think I saw footage of him from New York Comic Con, and yeah, dude, he's still looking old, but he's still pulling out the turtlenecks and the sunglasses and looking suave as fuck. Yeah, I love Steranko, man. You got to, though. And of course, James Warren, big influence on me. Eerie, creepy. Publishing those spirit books, all that kind of stuff. Love them. And here we are with the Great American Ripoff. Again, just kind of talking about people copying each other and stuff like that. This is actually a pretty good read. Now, I would recommend to hunt this thing down so you can read it. Main reason why I bought this, obviously, R. Crumb did the cover on this, so I jumped at the chance to get some R. Crumb goodness. I read the R. Crumb biography that they put out earlier this year, like back in like March time frame, April time frame. I picked that book up and had read through it. Absolutely nuts. Highly recommend to read it especially if you're into comics history. It's one of those things that I don't read traditional books a lot nowadays. A lot of the stuff that I am doing, it's mainly comic book related. Like I read a lot of Comics Journal, that thing, and that's where I get a lot of my just like standard reading at. But that R. Crumb book is so good. Like they just put unreleased comic strips in there, so on and so forth. So it's just very, very good. Just like the layout and everything like that. Of course, R. Crumb got some titties hanging out. It is what it is. Talking about Zap Zero. Finally have a copy of that. I have been trying so hard to get a copy of Zap Zero, and I finally purchased one probably like a couple weeks ago. Mr. Natural is probably my favorite R. Crumb character. So shout out to Mr. Natural. But yeah, they just talk about how R. Crumb is controversial and all that kind of stuff. You've heard it a million times. One of my favorites, John Romita Sr. When did this come out? Has to be 70s. 74. So yeah, pretty early 70s. It's 74 is the same year that the first Kiss record came out, so 74 is a prime year. If you guys pay attention to any of the comics that I make, they always take place in 1974, and for that reason, because that's the first year that Kiss released a record. So like Fat Pussy 1974, Japan X 1974, Ken Stein 1974, and you guessed it, White Line Deadline takes place in 1974, and that is not by coincidence. Like I said, that is purely because that's the first year that Kiss put out a record, and their output during the 70s is fucking insane when you think about it. They put out 3 records in 13 months, and all 3 of those records are great front to back. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 songs maybe on those records combined that you could throw away, like Kissin' Time, throw it in the garbage. But everything else, man, is just classic, and it's like, what other band has done that besides the Beatles when you think about it? Release that many records that quick with that many bangers on it. Never happens. It's like it's the Beatles and Kiss, and that's it. Those are the 2 bands that I can think of that released that many records in that span of time and were bangers front to back. At some point, too, I might do like a Kiss-themed one, because I can have toys, comics, records, basically anything you can fucking imagine is Kiss. They print their name on everything. Like, we're talking about a band that does, they sell air guitar strings, which obviously it's literally just a empty package that says air guitar strings on it, and they're selling that to people. That's the kind of band they are. So it's like it's on everything. But yeah. Love and Rockets number 6. Surprisingly, I didn't have this. I could have sworn that like I had 1 through 15, and I didn't have it already. But some of this stuff I do have, like mechanics, was spun off into its own book, like this, like the mechanics story was, because it's in a couple of issues of Love and Rockets at the start, and then they spun that into its own trade paperback. But yeah, I think I've kind of come to a point that I realize that my favorite Hernandez brother is probably Gilbert, because he had done, this is Gilbert, obviously, and I think that he's up there for me for my favorite Hernandez brother, if not my favorite Hernandez brother at this point, or Beto. So I just kind of like how his artwork isn't as polished as the other two Hernandez brothers, because I think that obviously it's very Archie inspired. I can tell you that right away. But I feel like everybody else, like, this is like super technical, right? Like, this is very Frank Miller-esque, I would say, in terms of the inking, very technical. And you got get to this, and it's more undergroundy. You know what I mean? A lot of cross-hatching, hatching, not a lot of details, and it's really just focusing on the characters, and the backgrounds aren't as elaborate. And I jive with that a little more. I think his drawings are like, this is not the greatest drawing in the world. Kind of wonky. That's the reason why I like it. So, can't explain it. Like I said, I love bad art. Not like bad art, but, art that you can tell that there's something there. And it's like, oh, once this dude, like another 2 years, like, this dude's going to be a fucking monster. It's like that kind of energy to it. I love it. But yeah, man. Love and Rockets, if you've never read Love and Rockets before, you're wrong. They are up there for some of my favorite comics, period. I discovered Love and Rockets a couple years ago, and ever since I've been hooked and have been reading it nonstop. Love and Rockets is weird because, like, this book first started out kind of like a superhero thing. At least there were superheroes in the book, and then eventually it just kind of turned into just like real, like, the best way I can describe Love and Rockets, I should say, is it is Archie, but punk rock Archie. That's how I would describe it. It's very much in that same vein, has, characters that continuously reoccur, interact with each other, and then it's about life more than anything else. And obviously the drawing is very Archie-esque. So it's more of like a punk rock Archie, and this is badass, man. Look at this. Like I said, punk rock Archie. Pretty good. Alright, we got one more thing to flip through here. It's a bigger book, and this will probably wrap us up. Alright, this is something I've been wanting to show off for a couple weeks now, and like I said, I kept forgetting it over at my girlfriend's house, so what the fuck are you gonna do about that? Yeah, I have the book plate in here. I own this painting. It's hanging up in my living room. So it's kind of funny that that's on the book end. Kind of interesting. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's kind of a trip for me that I work for Steve now. It's not like I'm at a loss for words for. I'm very appreciative, and the Roots have always been super supportive of everything I've been doing. So it's like I said, Steve is my all-time favorite. And when you look at my art, especially the kind of comics that I make, just off the wall, underground, however you want to look at it, his artwork and his comics are the complete opposite of that. So when you look at my work, you'd never be like, "Oh, this dude's Steve Rude student, studies the dude." For me, it's always about his discipline and always just like constantly just going and going and going and always learning, always evolving, and just getting better and better and better at his craft. That's what I appreciate about him the most. And I reached out to him probably like a year and some change ago, and had said as much, like, hey, I look at you and I see that the fucking grind you've been on for the last 40 years, and it's like, hell yeah, dude, I get down for that, especially for comics. And I try to emulate that, basically. And got an email back, and it's just been email back and forth every once in a while. And like I said, they put out the call to hire on people to help them out with their growing team and growing business. And they selected me. And the reasoning why they did select me, and this is kind of goes in part for those of you that are listening out there, it's like you have to network and you have to make these connections, and you can't just create in a vacuum or just hope things are going to happen. Like, I'm an earworm to people, and I know that I can be super annoying, just trying to pick people's brains and everything like that. But I got the gig because, like, they literally told me it's because we knew who you were. It was that simple. Nothing more on top of that. And so far, like, people have dropped from the team, and they've been giving me more work. And I guess that just shows that they trust me with getting things done for them. You know what I mean? So this is one of those things that, you know, the last 12 months have just been fucking nuts for me, man. It's honestly insane how fast stuff has been happening. So yeah, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of determination, a lot of dedication to the craft, and wanting to do things my way and not letting people stand in my way, and also not letting people tell me what the fuck to do, because it's my operation. I do what I want. And that's one of the reasons why I love comics so much. It's just I can do what I want and nobody can hold me back. You know, can't do it alone, especially. I've had a ton of support over the last, you know, year and a half or whatever, almost 2 years now. I've been cartooning for 2 years, and like February, March time frame, I want to say. So about a year and a half now I've been kind of cranking along, and I've got this far in just a year and a half. So it's like, just goes to show, it's like you have to put in the work, you have to put in the time, and shit will happen. I also wanted to give a big shout out to, you know, Allison, my girlfriend. She's helped me out extensively with printing t-shirts, editing, just getting things ready for cons, helping me work tables at cons. So helping me just hustle, getting stuff out to my friends, make a t-shirt, so on and so forth. So huge help. And I never would have asked for anyone better to help me on the comic book grind. And once you guys see the underground story that I did in the third anthology that's coming out here in a little bit, again, it's called Fat Pussy, and I think in the last stream I showed off a couple of the pages from it, but it's literally a kaiju vagina going around stomping through the city. And if somebody's willing to stay with you after making comics like that, they're probably a keeper. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, this is a more polished sketchbook from back in previous years. So if you guys have purchased Steve Rude's sketchbooks before, they mainly have been just like stuff like this, just like snippets of his sketchbook. But they had gone through and done a bunch of editing to these things, and added in, like, oh, here's like a video lesson of when Steve had done this, and there's more design to the book, which I greatly appreciate. And I know Janelle, Steve's wife, had spearheaded all the design on this stuff. Here's the cowl. So this was penciled, and I kept telling Steve, I'm like, where's that fucking cowl? You never finished the cowl. And it was kind of like a meme between us. He finally finished it, and it's in the book. I'd always be like, we want the cowl, more cows. But yeah, if you've never looked at one of his sketchbooks before, like, this is sketchbook page 39 from last year. It's like, this is what he is doing in his sketchbooks, and it's like, this is just finished art at this point, you know what I mean? Like, there's studies, but you look at this stuff and you just shake your head at it, because you know you'll never be that good. So, like, this is what I was kind of talking about, how he's showing gesture lines and kind of showing different mouth structures and things like that. Scan the QR code, and then boom, it drags you to when this was done, and then how he was given the lesson. So, pretty cool idea. I was telling Janelle a couple days ago, that was one of the big things that I loved about these books, were those QR codes. It's a great frame of reference, and like doing stuff like this too, like where it came from, so that way you know, and it's like, put it in the book. educate some people. I think this is James Dean. It kind of looks like James Dean. Not sure though. Of course, some demon stuff. Oh shit! Look at this. Hold on a second. I was doodling this last night. It's something that I was working on. His shield's kind of fucking wonky, and I need to fix this. But it was like 11:30 midnight or something when I had done this. His shield's a little wonky. But yeah, I wasn't expecting to see that in this. This is in that how to draw figure drawing book, and I just been, you know, just practicing, just kind of drawing in this a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I didn't know that was in there. But some good old Jack Kirby studies. One of the reasons why I love Steve so much too is just because he has so many different influences. Oh, how we doing, Nathan? His influences are all over the place. Oh, Rockwell, Fawcett, Jack Kirby, you know, you name it. Like, they're just all over the place. And that's kind of how I am too. It's like I have influences from all different styles. Look at this painting. Just absolute nutty. Like, when you look at his artwork, like, the best way to describe it, it's like power. Like, you put your hand over top of it, and it just feels like electricity's coming off the page. Just super powerful artwork. There's, like, no other way to describe it. Yeah, Steve's a good dude. Supposed to be doing a drawing for me of Judah, one of the characters from Nexus. He's my favorite character in Nexus, mainly because he's got the Bret Hart sunglasses. And then obviously Bret Hart's my all-time favorite, so it makes a lot of sense. This drawing, I'm pretty sure, is for sale on his website. And it's like $400, $450. So if anyone wants to track this thing down, I'm pretty sure it's still up there to buy. And it's on animation paper, I believe, so it's in like a weird aspect ratio, but it's good shit, man. Of course, he studied a lot of Toth. Yeah, here's Judah. Just talking about him. But he's my favorite. Like I said, he's got the Bret Hart sunglasses. Because you guys already know. The best there was, the best there ever will be. Don't you forget it. Some Barry Windsor Smith action, it looks like. And when you look at the architecture and like the technology in Nexus, it's straight up ripped from Space Ghost, you know, 60s sci-fi, very Star Trek-y, which, you know, he always talked about Captain Kirk and how Captain Kirk and that character is like a big influence to him. And I think we've even seen a handful of Captain Kirk drawings in here. Yeah, look how good this is. Here's the model. And there's the finished. Insanely good. Some good old Nexus action. If you guys are cartoonists, colorists, animators, we are actually hiring over at the Rude Dude Studio. So we are looking for a full-time animation lead and a full-time colorist for comics, mainly Nexus. And Steve wants to bring the Moth back as well. So I will share the link after the stream. I will put it in the description so that way you guys can find it. But there is an application process for to be a colorist, and obviously, like you have to be damn good, if not the best, like in the industry, because like if you're gonna be coloring Steve's stuff, like you have to be up to fucking snuff for that. But I've been posting an Ink Pulp Discord about it and a couple other Discords trying to get people to like know like, hey, like Steve's hiring, and if you want to get your foot in the door, like at a good studio, like this is the way to do it. He's working on getting his animation studio up off the ground, so here within the next like year or two, you know, the animation's going to be full up and running. Need about $3 to $5 million ideally to start production on it, and he's already hired a couple of people. So at this point, it's literally like getting a lead animator to kind of run the show, and get a colorist, so that way Steve can still do comics and he hasn't to worry about coloring them, because as you guys know, coloring takes forever, especially if you're painting like him. So getting somebody to come in and do it for him, why the hell not? Alright, so the good old camel. If you guys pay attention at all to things that I've done in the past, if you have one of my sketchbooks that I put out earlier this year, I drew this camel. So this was from a live stream that he did. If you actually scan this, you'll get to, you know, see that live stream that it's from. I submitted a drawing. I've never drawn a camel before in my life, and they were like, hey, here's the reference for it. Basically copy my drawing. I drew the camel, came in second place. Not too bad for somebody who doesn't draw animals, or certainly never has drawn a camel in their life. So seeing this in here is pretty, I guess, heartwarming is the way to look at it. I don't know. This kind of brings back a time, yeah, it's November 16th from last year. So just kind of like look back at it and remember torturing myself for a week drawing a fucking camel to insert into the contest. And I think you won like the original camel drawing is what you had done. Like I said, I got second place. Some more Frazetta studies. It's like, look at the original and then look at his study. It's like he just zooms in really far on like the subject matter. Like he's just unworldly. Then of course talking about the Nexus animated series. So yes, folks, we're trying to bring it back. So like I said, if you know anybody out there that's looking for an animation gig, tell them to message me on Discord, email me, whatever, so I can get them the documentation or get their portfolio sent over to Steve, so that way we can start hiring people. Like there's like 6 of us on the team right now, and somebody else is starting on the 1st to be in studio with him every day. So he's hiring, he's making moves to like make his own studio, animation studio, coloring studio, just comic studio in general. Very old school in that way. Some of us are remote, but he's bringing in people in-house. So if you guys want to work directly with Steve and you have the skills to do it, like jump on it and don't sleep. This drawing I have hanging up literally right here. So that's pretty nuts. But yeah, there's that. It's just a animation test, kind of like, you know, how like a single cell would look. Some good old Tarzan. You know, Tarzan gets shit on, I think, and it makes sense. It's very much so. It's like your great granddaddy's superhero type of shit. But if you guys ever see Tarzan stuff on the wild, especially like the DC stuff that DC had published, a lot of that's drawn by Joe Kubert, and you guys know I'm a big Joe Kubert guy, and I think he's like the perfect dude for that. Obviously, he's done Tor, which was essentially just Tarzan or Conan, but Jack Kirby's not Jack Kirby, Jesus. Joe Kubert's version of that, good shit, man. Yeah, Nathan, he like oh, speaking of Captain Kirk, but yeah, the dude just lives on a separate planet. Oh, you definitely can see the Kirby reference inspiration on this. Like that face just screams Jack Kirby. Holy shit. Yeah, he's just insane. This is colored pencil. Like, okay. And this is just shit that he's doing in a sketchbook. It's insane. Oh, interesting. It did a Deadpool. Ah, it was a commission. That makes sense. Because, like, why would Steve Rude ever draw Deadpool on his free time? Makes no sense, but it was a commission. That makes sense. Some Nexus and Sondra. Oh yeah, the newspaper strips. I was looking for the first issue of those newspaper strips for an eternity, and I finally tracked it down and found it, because Steve sent it to me. Yeah, Creed is another one of my favorites from Nexus. I love Goro, and of course he got the forearms on it, is what it reminds me of. Shout out to Creed. And here's the painting that I got hanging up in my living room. Still kind of insane to see that it was published in this book, but there it is. Got that for Christmas, actually. So shout out to that. He did another drawing contest, and it was like, draw Alice, and just copy my drawing, basically. I don't think a single person turned in anything, because, like, one, kids are hard to draw, and then you're adding a girl on top of that, and as everybody knows, like, kids are hard to draw, and then you add being a female on top of that, it's even harder. And, man, I tried and it looked bad, so I just stopped what the fuck I was doing and backed out. Promoting the Patreon. Yeah, he's just so good. Battle for Thune World. And you gotta keep in mind too, like, these are big ass drawings too, man. Like, I wonder if they have sizes on here for any of this stuff. I don't think there are sizes. But like, his paintings are like 30 inches, like 20 by 30 or something, just like huge canvases. He's a madman. Go back to where we were here. There we are. And I know Janelle was working on finishing up their current book, which is Return to Earth. It's basically the new Nexus story. And, well, it's like, it's the new Nexus story, but it is the studio edition, so it's just like raw art, commentary on the pages, that sort of thing. So if you're into like artist editions, that sort of thing, they're gonna have that available soon. It just wrapped up on Kickstarter a couple weeks ago. I think you can still do late pledges on it until the end of this month. So if you wanted to snag up like an artist edition of Nexus, the late backing is still available, I believe, until the end of the month. His daughter Jessica. Talk to her pretty often, and she's one of the main proponents as to why a bunch of young guns were hired on and to come onto the team. She was handling everything. For the most part, they got too big, she couldn't handle it anymore, and basically decided to step back, and then now they're like, fuck it, we're gonna hire a bunch of people. Here we are. All right. But yeah, I think that's probably where we're going to start wrapping it up, though, because it's been going for like an hour and 10 minutes or so. Start changing it up. So again, White Wine Deadline, currently on Kickstarter, right at $880, need 120 bucks to go. confident we're going to get there. We're probably going to do like $1,100, $1,200 is kind of what I'm thinking is what it's going to end up being after the last 48 hours, or the big two, like day number one, the last 48 hours are the big fundraising days on there. So definitely going to hit that goal. I was going through because I was looking at like the backer list to see who backed the book so far and everything like that. Like some of the people that had backed my book, like I didn't know what to say. I kind of was at a loss for it. Like my food was on there. Sean Crystal and yeah, just like getting the support from those dudes. It's like it's crazy, and like Sean especially, he's been one of my biggest supporters over the year. Always gives me advice, always emails me back, always gives me feedback. Like he helped me directly on the Kickstarter, was like, hey, maybe change this, do that. And yeah, like I said, just like seeing his name in that backer list is kind of like put me at a pause for a little bit. And not that I was unexpecting it, but it's just like one of those things. It's like a proud moment, you know what I mean? Like Sean sticks his neck out a lot for me, and more than anybody else has. And he definitely took a bet on me in terms of like actually showing up and putting out the work and producing comics and just following through on my word and just getting it done basically. And he has told me as such, like, you know, good for you, dude. You're putting in the fucking work, and I know that I am. So gotta pat myself on the back a little bit because of that. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm gonna pack up these comics and put them away. I still have to make dinner, and then I want to probably get around to doing some drawing, maybe just do some doodling or something tonight. I'm not too sure. I'm kind of like in a weird limbo where I'm in between books right now. So obviously, like I can start drawing the second issue of White Line, which I have like 2 pages done of the second issue. I'm somebody who gets a page done every day, so I'd be able to crank out an issue in like a month. And I don't want to be annoying with like putting up a Kickstarter, then like a month later, here's another one. And I could do that if I wanted to, but I'm not going to, because it's like, one, it's annoying, and I don't expect people to constantly just give me money to produce these things. So like every 2 or 3 months or so, I'll have another one up. All 4 of them I plan on kickstarting and doing it that way and getting the funding that way, and then the people that want it get it, rather than having a bunch printed. Like, I have extras obviously to have at cons and everything like that, but for the most part though, it's mainly just for the Kickstarters, and that's just the way that it's going to be. And in between the Kickstarters books for White Line, I'm going to keep doing the anthologies and just kind of go over each other for that. Yeah, thanks, Nathan. I'm trying, man. I putting in the time. And like the thing is too, it's like I'm doing this on top of working 40 and 50 hour weeks. So it's like, to kind of put into perspective, it's a lot of fucking work, man. And yeah, it's just one of those things you just have to put in the work and it pays off. So yeah, I don't know. But besides that though, if anybody is in the Fox Valley area for the weekend, there is going to be the 3rd Comic Verse up in Green Bay here in town. It is on the 26th, so that is Sunday. I'll be there for a majority of the day. I'm going to be tabling there, mainly just promoting the book and trying to get the word out locally for that. And that'll be the last con that I'm doing for the year. I'm on the list to do Heroes Con next year. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, especially if they're doing Eddie P Con again, because if they're doing Eddie P Con, like I'd rather go and do that. Because I can't take a lot of time off work. Like they just don't give you the paid time off to do it. So I'm kind of waiting for to see if they're going to do Eddie P Con again next year before I pull the trigger on Heroes Con. But if they're not going to do Eddie P Con again, which I hope they are and I think they are, I'm going to dive into doing Heroes Con next year and see how that goes. Heroes Con's a pretty big convention, so it'd be pretty exciting to do, but getting out to North Carolina is going to be a pain in the ass. I know people that live out there, so I might be able to ship my stuff out ahead of time to get it done. But I don't think I would drive out there. I definitely would fly. It's North Carolina is way too far away from Wisconsin to do that drive and do a good con and come back from it. But yeah, that's all I really have to do. Yeah, I'm probably just gonna, like I said, I'm probably gonna call it here, eat some dinner, and maybe just sit and do some doodling, do some drawing. And once because I have White Line Deadline, like I said, that first issue, it's done. I'm just waiting for pinups from people at this point to slot into the book. So once the campaign is done, like maybe a week or two after, well, as soon as I get my funding, like I can send that thing straight to the printer pretty much. I'm just waiting for more artwork. That's it. So it's literally that simple. And then probably like January, February of next year, issue 2 will be up. And yeah, so like every other month, I'm gonna have an anthology. So second anthology, or sorry, the third anthology. Jesus, that's gonna deadline for that wraps up next week, and then I'm gonna get everybody's pages. I already have a bunch of pages and art from people. Like I may have like 4 or 5 stories already, and I haven't had a chance to look those over, which I might end up doing after this. But that book is gonna be out like a week or two before deadline. It's technically like out to the public, so I'm able to add that on as a Kickstarter add-on. And if anybody who is at like the sensationalized tier and above, which basically it's like White Line Deadline in the 2 anthology books, I'll pitch in the 3rd book for free. Otherwise, you can add it as a standard add-on if you're not on that tier level, and it'll be $3 as opposed to the $5 that it usually is. So it'd be an exclusive discount for the backers, so you can get it cheaper that way. And then plus, there's no extra shipping on it. So the shipping on that thing would be free for the weight. So that's the best way to get it, and this is underground goodness. Like Nathan, who's in the chat, I was sending him pages yesterday of my anthology story, and his reaction is exactly what I want everybody's reaction to be, is just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't know, man. It's just whatever popped into my mind, and that's what came out. So anyways, I'm going to call it. Again, next week we're probably going to do more Marvel does Ren and Snippy comics. I think that's probably what we're going to do. So I'll dig out 3 issues, we'll flip through them, talk about them, and then as well I'll have a haul because I'm going to that con this weekend. I'm definitely going to end up buying comics. Let's be realistic here. So yeah, I'll have some stuff, and we'll do a fun little stream next week. But besides that, I hope everybody has a good rest of your week. Peace.